a quick thank you to the T5 peeps, Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Cat Crab Lobster, Dark Machine, Astraya the Dreamer, Mezec, Feudic Jarl, and Casper Arnholtz. Thank you very much. Story number 1. The Multiverse Drifter, written by Rosie013. I do not know how many different worlds I have visited anymore, only that it has been many, probably thousands, since I was first abducted by them. That's right, I may look like I belong, but I'm not really from here, or anywhere nearby, relatively speaking. To you, I might as well be an alien, although you wouldn't know it at a glance. My home was a place like this once. I blend in on account of being from a similar place in existence. But I'm not a real Indian. I'm not like them at all. They are something far beyond what our minds can possibly hope to grasp. This place is nice enough, I suppose, but it's the little things that remind me that I am far from where I'm started. Buildings slightly out of place, a different taste in the water, colors of the earth faded where they were once bright in my memories. This world is one of many parallel worlds, each subtly different from the next. Each one is almost like the home I remember, but none of them are home. There is nothing concrete enough to convince authorities. If I were ever stupid enough to take my claims to them, they would call me crazy, mad, affected by the sun, all the while being totally unaware that this is not the same sun that I was born under. I doubt that I'll see my real home ever again. The first few times I tried to accept my displacement, to naturalize myself so that I could live some kind of life, despite my unusual circumstances. But they decided otherwise. My peace was not allowed to be. Every so often they would abduct me again and drop me into a new place, a new world, never one that I'd visited before. Maybe there is some kind of twisted logic to the kind of world they decide to send me to, or what my purpose is in each one, but they have never made their intentions known to me. Is it some kind of test? Am I repeatedly failing or succeeding? Why me to begin with? There must have been a better candidate to start with other than myself. I do not know. As I grow old, I feel more kinship with my abductors than to any locals met my travels. But still, they do not communicate with me, share their intentions or secrets with me. I do not know if returning across the barriers between worlds is even possible. I was first made aware of them when I was little, when I was snatched away from my brothers and sisters by a moment of panic and choked on non-breath. Family. Cannot even remember what any of them looked like anymore. Sometimes I looked at my reflection in the hopes of jogging my memory with the familiarity of my features. But there was nothing. I hope that they are living their best lives without me. They put me in a small, featureless cell, rounded walls that warped light, had dazzled and confused me. I was so scared. Eventually, after I had begun to lose track of time, I was deposited in a familiar-looking place. But it wasn't home, and that first time, I was alone. Have you ever wondered how eerie it is to live in your own abandoned home? Everything that I expected to be there was, except for company. Before long, I was abducted again, and I didn't know whether to be scared or relieved. I thought I was going home, and I was sort of right. I went to a new version of my home, and it was crowded full of strangers. I cried out my relief and told them my story loudly, tired from unknown months alone. The locals didn't believe me, called me touched in the head, shunned me. Some few believed me. They knew I spoke the truth, but they tried to silence me out of fear, lest I attract their attention once more. I was battered, nearly crippled by the next abduction saved my life. It was a hard lesson, but I learned to keep my mouth shut. I explored new worlds, some barren and empty, some full of strange things that reminded me of home. I made meaningless banter with the locals, tried to pretend they didn't exist for a time, lived a simple, peaceful life. The abductions were always the same, and although they were uncomfortable, I lost my fear of them. Whoever was doing this clearly did not mean me harm in a physical sense of the word, at least. Eventually, I came to recognize the signs, the subtle clues that linked many of the worlds that I traveled. The oddly similar landscapes, the construction and layouts of buildings, even the flavors of local foods. It was different every time, but somehow the same. Like a million different worlds were all masquerading as the same world. It was déjà vu all over again, around every corner I looked. I wasn't physically traveling at all, I was being moved between parallel worlds. I didn't know what to do with that revelation, to be honest. I still don't, but it gave me my life meaning as my curiosity would start to compare the differences more and more, until I became the traveler who you see today. Why am I telling you this? No, not to scare you. I suppose you could say legacy. I wish to be remembered. What? I'm not quite that old. That's not what I meant. I'm telling you because they are coming for me again. I know the signs, can feel it in my bones. Regardless of whether they send me from here, I won't be coming back. I don't know what I expect you to do with my story, to be honest. I don't particularly care. All that matters is that you've heard it before I'm taken once more. Now, go. They're almost here. Troy leaned over the empty tank and scrubbed at a particularly stubborn patch of algae clinging to the floor joint. He loved his exotic pets, but it was such a pain to have to clean the tank on a regular basis. If only he had settled for goldfish, he would have only had to clean like 3 times a year, tops. No matter, the pride and joy he had as these exotic beauties more than made up for the effort needed. Speaking of maintenance, he would have to replace the gravel again soon. This latest brand had faded much more quickly than he had hoped. Then he could restage and fill the aquarium again, and get his brightly colored pets out of the small plastic bags that served as the temporary enclosures. Troy's eyes wandered over to the fish bags and hurried up his scrubbing a little. He had a new one traded from the club, and he was keen to see the majestic beauty swim his setup. End of story. Story number 2 was from a writing prompt. Create a pamphlet for alien captains unfamiliar with the concepts of sleep to help them understand what their new human requires. Communication number 194-03526, Alpha priority. To all sapient employing humans as crew, read this immediately. To all sapients transporting humans as passengers, post this on all pertinent information boards. In all cases, ensure that your crew is familiar with the contents of this communication. This is imperative. Part 1. Human and Sleep. Members of the sapient species, self-identified as human, have a requirement to spend a certain amount of time in an unconscious, semi-vegetative state. This is similar to the biannual hibernation of the Hagroth, except that it takes place on a daily basis, taking up a significant fraction of any single day-night cycle. This is not negotiable. Suggestions that humans just think that they need to sleep, and if they really tried, they could get over it, had been met by humans with very response from wordless incredulity through to manic laughter. Research laughter, if you're unfamiliar with the concept, all the way up to and including physical violence. Note that the latter invariably took place as a result of their sleep being deliberately disturbed. Do not disturb a human who is asleep except under the most dire of circumstances. If it is not under the most dire of circumstances, then once the human becomes aware of the situation, it will become a dire circumstance. Just don't do it. Part 2. Duration of sleep period. Roughly 1/3 of any given day-night cycle will be taken up with sleep. If the human is well rested and has a comfortable place to lie down, they may be able to get in with less. But don't count on it. In addition, humans are able to go without sleep if they choose to, in order to complete a required task. but the longer they maintain a sleepless state, their brains become more and more disarranged. Stimulants may maintain them for a brief amount of time, but do not be deceived. They will need sleep. See below about coffee. A human who has overrun their normal sleep period will require more sleep before they are fit for duty, or even contact with other sapiens. Just let them sleep. Your crew will be happier for it. Part 3. The importance of coffee. Coffee is a uniquely human beverage. Humans consume it both to stay awake longer in order to complete important tasks, and to give themselves a wake-up when they first arise from sleep. The active ingredient is caffeine, so do not try and drink it. Where members of the Zunder cult touch tiny amounts of the powder in their tongues to bring out hallucinogenic trances, humans drink it by the liter. If a human is working and claims to need more coffee, ensure that they have more coffee. Do not get between a human and their coffee. Just don't. Note that coffee is not a substitute for sleep. The effect runs out eventually, and the humans will require sleep eventually. Part 4. Effects of lack of sleep. If a human is prevented from sleeping, the first effects are drowsiness. Their eyes will tend to close, they will sit or lie down wherever they can, and they will become unresponsive. If left unattended, they will slip into sleep mode. If prevented from doing this, they'll become either disoriented or aggressive, or both. It has been said that a human without proper sleep is akin to a bear with a sore head. This is not inaccurate. Look up bears. Humans have been known to lock themselves into compartments and even swear at superior officers if they were denied their daily ration of sleep. It is best to let them get to it. Part 5. Conclusion. Look, not everyone knows much about humans. They are, frankly, a weird species. However, they're also a good species to have at your side when pirates come calling. I managed to frighten off a ship simply by putting my chief engineer on screen. When they realized there was a human on board, I may have suggested that he was my head of security. You have never seen a bunch of sapiens crap themselves so fast. So it really is a good idea to keep them happy. If they say that they need to get some sleep, let them. A resting bunk is ideal for the purpose. The lack of noise and light is also useful. Also, get a coffee machine. Trust me, your human will thank you. Communication ends. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.